Hello and welcome to a Blaseball Statistical History, a look at the Seattle Garages development across the expansion era. The Garages had quite a strong discipline era, playing in over half of the postseasons and consistently finishing in the top half of the league. They enter the new era with a decent lineup and an extended rotation that has two obvious weaknesses. But they start strong in season 12, finishing second in their division and joint sixth overall. They qualify for the postseason, making it all the way to the final before they are beaten by the Tigers. Their only events during the season are weather, which is only positive, granting them 2 wins and allowing them to steal 3. In the election, they use their wills to infuse a player and to steal Nagomi McDaniel from the Fridays, but then the Flowers immediately steal them away. The Worms also steal a player. The Garages do win a blessing, allowing them to swap their best hitting pitcher with their worst hitter. But it turns out their worst hitter is also a terrible pitcher, leaving the rotation very gappy. But the reverse of that swap has worked out well. Season 13 is not good, as the team slip down the league to 15th. The weather turns against them. 3 players take trips to elsewhere, but a feedback sees the return of Jalen Hotdog Fingers to the team, and there are 3 parties. With their wills, the Garages choose to infuse their worst pitcher, and also make a change to the rotation by putting Jalen in the shadows. The Tigers pounce, stealing a batter, and the Lift steal the team's strongest batter, but a blessing sees a new addition to the rotation. The lineup now looks average, missing their standout players. And whilst the rotation has a bit more power, there are still big gaps in it. And this means a further slip in performance, as the Garages come bottom of their division and 21st overall. There is repeat negative performance from the weather and an uptake in visits to elsewhere, as well as a decrease to just 2 parties. But the team do gain Wyatt Mason 10 in the late season. Their position near the bottom of the league entitles them to 3 wills, which they use to infuse a batter, make a player change within the lineup, and also plunder Chorby Soul from the Hall of Flame, who arrives with the returned and debt mods. They win another blessing, making their whole roster either minimalists or maximalists. The Garages are now quite a large team. Their Wyatt Mason is one of just 2 who survived to the end of the season. There are still gaps in the rotation, but the lineup does have some more power in it. But season 15 is not a good one for the Garages, as they finish last in the league. The weather only activates in their opponent's favour, and they see a player shelled. 1 player is observed but survives it, and there is limited interest in elsewhere. Probably because the team is too busy dealing with consumers. Chorby Soul attracts most of their attention, facing 138 attacks, but 9 other players are also attacked, and the 11 parties pale in comparison. However, last does mean 3 wills, and these are used to re-roll Chorby Soul's debt, give the team life of the party for next season, and move Jalen Hotdog Fingers to their rotation. However, they also reclaim them from the shoe thieves who had plundered them earlier. They do say goodbye to Chorby as the Millennials take them, but a blessing sees the team's shadows base running improved. The team enter the next season with 2 shelled batters and a rotation which has quite a gap in the middle. The Garages gain 1 place in the league, as the weather continues to be unhelpful. But this season, they only face 3 consumer attacks and are able to defend against them all. A feedback sends the shelled Oliver Lufa to the shoe thieves, but the team really cash in on life of the party with 14 parties. Another 3 wills enable the team to make a change to both rotation and lineup, and steal York Silk from the Moist Talkers. The Tigers want a player trade, and the team win 3 blessings this season, as a player gains an item, and the Shadows get 2 more boosts. The team gets bigger again, but the rotation looks much more healthy. And Season 17 has a better performance, as they move up to 13th in the league. The weather remains against them, and another player gets shelled. Blood rain is 2 negative to 1 positive, but only one player spends a day elsewhere. Jalen makes a more permanent move to the Shoe Thieves in a feedback. There are 3 parties, and on day 99, York Silk becomes legendary and leaves the team. In the election, the garages use their wills to shorten their rotation and re-roll one of Jalen's mods. The Tigers reverse their player trade from last season, and the Sunbeams make a swap. The garages win 2 more blessings, as a player gains an item, and the team's best base runner joins the lineup from the shadows. There looks to have been a decrease in both lineup and rotation power, with player changes and the loss of 2 strong batters, which is reflected in the standings, as the garages finished 22nd overall. They do appear in the seasonal reading, as Lotus Mango becomes a negative, but the weather is also negative. Wyatt Mason 10 is freed from their shell by crows, before heading elsewhere at the end of the season when they echo it. There are 3 consumer attacks, and 1 is defended against, whilst Fax Machine makes 3 changes to the rotation. But hope for improvement lies with 16 parties. In Season 18, the garages receive 3 gifts, giving soul boosts to their players, becoming life of the party, and seeing a player gain an item. In the election, the team choose to shorten their lineup, make a player trade with the Sunbeams, and alternate Brisket Friendo, who loses their Attractor mod. They also win 2 blessings, as their shadows get a batting adjustment, and they become a shame donor. The team look far more consistent now. There are no gaping holes in the rotation, and the lineup has plenty of power. But Season 19 is a season where being bad is good, and the garages come 2nd in the league. They qualify for the postseason and make it all the way to the final before being beaten by the Lift. They join the rest of the league in appearing in the seasonal reading, as Lotus Mango becomes an Undertaker. But they also have a negative blood rain. Elsewhere is very popular, with 10 players taking trips there. Fax Machine makes 6 more changes to the rotation, but there are more movements, as Feedback swaps a player with the Crabs, and sadly, Sparks Beans is incinerated. The garages only get 2 gifts this season, with more soul boosts and gaining home field advantage. Their wills they use to infuse a Shadows player and make a lineup change, whilst yet another blessing evolves 2 players. But they look a bit weaker than previous seasons, as the lineup has seen some big losses. And the team struggle, coming joint 23rd overall. They qualify for the under bracket, but are knocked out in the league series by the Lovers. Sun 2 only works against them, and there is an allergic peanut reaction to contend with. But 3 players return from elsewhere, while only 2 depart. Fax Machine makes another 4 changes, but the big news of the season is 20 parties. 4 gifts for the garages mean early to the party and soundproof mods, and 2 players gain items. But the team also get 3 wills, making a trade with the Shoe Thieves, swapping 2 players, and magnifying another. The team is very big, meaning that the better players have less opportunities to shine. So while there are some very good players, they get a little lost with the rest. Which means the garages maintain their position in 23rd, qualifying for another underbracket. This time, though, they are knocked out in the division series by the Moist Talkers. The weather grants them 10 wins, and there are 4 visits to elsewhere. Voicemail makes a change to the lineup, whilst Fax Machine makes 5 to the rotation, and there are also 11 parties. The team get 3 gifts, making them early to the party, fireproof, and giving some items an upgrade. Their position allows them another 3 wills, which are used to infuse a Shadows player, steal an item, and magnify another player. They also win a blessing, alternating some of their lineup. All these parties are adding power to the team, and from outward appearances, it could dominate. Domination is not quite on the cards, but there is a solid improvement as they move up to 12th overall. They are wildcarded into the postseason, but don't make it out of that round due to the Millennials. The weather is a mixed bag, but they gain 12 wins from it. A trio of players all take a trip to elsewhere on the same day, but then return separately. Both voicemail and fax machine have more changes to make. The team gain another player as Kathy Matthews roams from the flowers with 5th base, then puts it down so sticks around. 2 players become unstable twice, but both survive it twice, and there are 7 parties to be had. The team get 3 gifts this season, opting to become fireproof and gain replicas of Liquid Friend and Uncle Plasma. With their wills, they infuse a Shadows player and make a change to the rotation. They also make a player trade with the Crabs due to a Breath Mints vote. Blessings for the Fridays and Worms make 2 players a Subtractor and Skipping, whilst the Pies steal Lotus Mango. And the Garages win a blessing, allowing them to steal 1 Shadows player from every other team. So whilst the active roster doesn't look much changed, and still with a lot of power, the overall team is now the biggest in the league. The Garages finally have a good season, finishing top of their division and joint 8th in the league. They enter the postseason and make it to the League Series before being eliminated by the Moist Talkers. They gain 10 wins from the weather and only have positive blood rains. All 13 of their consumer attacks are defended against, and despite 3 players becoming unstable, they all survive. Voicemail and fax machine make 1 change each. There are 5 trips elsewhere, and they gain 1 but lose 2 Shadows players through the Thieves Guild. 3 more gifts make the team early to the party, see a player gain an item, and most items get an upgrade. In the election, they choose the Containment party favour, and join the rest of the league in becoming under review. They also win 2 blessings, as the whole team gets boosted, and 3 players get a further hitting boost. They lose a Shadows player to the Tacos, but gain 2 after the semi-centennial from the Rising Stars. The overall boost means huge improvements across the board, with some real standout players. Despite 2 starting elsewhere, this is a powerful team. But this may be somewhat overshadowed by the chaos of the season, as they finish 11th of the 24 ILB teams. But they also finish 1st in their new division of the Hall, by dint of being the only team to finish the season in that quadrant. Their 2 elsewhere players return, and the Garages are visited by Parker Macmillan 3 times, and 3 times escape incineration when he leaves. There are 3 consumer attacks, and 2 are defended against. 2 players are observed, and both get redacted. Top Clark is incinerated, and there is 1 party, whilst the Thieves Guild gives Lenny marijuana to the stakes. In Season 24, the Garages head straight for the Hall. From there, they participate in the attempt to incinerate the coin, and when that was successful, they return to the Hall, where they finish the season. In the expansion era, the Garages faced 2 incinerations, 4 feedbacks, and no reverbs, alongside the most parties of Mild High, with 88. They had 1 allergic peanut reaction, and 3 each of blood rain, 9 positive to 12 negative black holes, and 5 positive to 15 negative Sun 2s, the most negative of their division. They also had the most shelled and unstable players in Mild High, with 2 shelled and 7 unstable. They also had 3 observations and 2 redactions. They had no night shifts, 5 voicemails, and the most fax machines of the division, with 21. They gained 1 player from the Thieves Guild, but lost 3. 34 of their players took trips elsewhere, with the longest stay being 105 days. They gained 25 wins from Sun 30 and faced the most consumer attacks of Mild High, with 171, 138 of them on just one player. Their Arcana Justice appeared in 2 seasonal readings. They were given 18 gifts, but were awarded the most wills and won the most blessings in their division, with 28 of the first and 16 of the second. They played in 3 postseasons but won none. They also played in 3 underbrackets, once as a wild card, but didn't win that either. Despite huge amounts of player fluctuation, the Garages finished the era with an active roster the same length as the one they started with. The rotation is really powerful, and the lineup has some strong players, but less consistency. Thank you for joining me for another Blaxplanation. I'll be back with more Blaseball fun and facts soon, but until then, rejoice, play ball.